They abandoned this starship. A human mechanic turned it into the galaxy's supreme weapon. The junkyard stretched for kilometers across the dusty surface of Jaron Station. Scraps of starships, some barely recognizable, jutted out from the sand like broken teeth. Alien traders and scavengers moved among the wreckage, haggling, shouting, and occasionally arguing in languages no human could fully understand.
It was a place where no one came to admire the stars.
It was a place where the universe forgot things, and where some things, if noticed, could change everything. Among the piles of wrecked ships lay one massive starship that even the seasoned alien scavengers avoided. It was enormous, with jagged edges of metal torn away, wires dangling like broken veins, and hull plating scorched from unknown battles. Its once shining surface was dull, pocked with dents and scorched marks. Rumors flew around the junkyard. Too old to be worth anything. The AI core is dead. Dangerous. Not even the best engineers could fix it. Every voice dismissed the ship, every hand turned away. Only one pair of eyes saw it differently. Jace Rylan, a human mechanic barely 5'8", stood at the edge of the lot, his worn boots crunching over gravel and metal shards. Dirt streaked his face, and his hands were black with grease, but his bright blue eyes reflected something the others didn't see: possibility. Where aliens saw rust and decay, Jace saw potential. Where they saw an abandoned ship, he saw a challenge. He adjusted the strap of his tool belt and stepped closer, his gaze scanning the starship. Every dent, every scorched panel, every twisted piece of machinery told a story. And Jace loved stories. Stories weren't just words. Stories weren't just words. They were machines, problems, puzzles to solve. And this ship was the puzzle of a lifetime. A gruff, four-armed alien approached, the smell of ozone and metal clinging to its armor. "Human," it rumbled, its voice like grinding metal. "Why waste your time on that heap? You'll only lose credits. And maybe your life." Jace smiled faintly, wiping a hand on a shirt.
"It's not wasted if you see what others don't."
The alien snorted, a sound that rattled Jace's teeth. "Others are smarter. They know this ship is useless." "Maybe," Jace replied, crouching to inspect a broken engine nozzle. "They just don't know how to fix it." The alien shook its head and left, muttering about foolish humans. Jace ignored it. He didn't need their approval. He had learned long ago that humans weren't respected in these parts. Small, weak, fragile. By alien standards, humans were nothing. But that didn't matter. Ingenuity mattered. Creativity mattered. Persistence mattered. And Jace had all three. After hours of haggling with the junk dealers, the purchase was complete. A handful of credits and a promise that no one would interfere. Jace stood before the towering hull of the abandoned starship. He reached out and pressed his hand against the cold, dented metal. It felt alive, almost breathing beneath his touch. He whispered, almost to himself, "Let's see what we can do." The first step was simple in theory. Board the ship and assess the damage. Simple, except the interior was dark and silent, with corridors like dead arteries stretching into the unknown. Jace flicked on his portable lights. Shadows danced across walls lined with broken panels and exposed wiring. Every step echoed, a warning that he was entering territory no human or alien had dared to explore in decades. He paused near the central console. The ship's AI core, or what remained of it, was dormant, cold, and silent. Jace knelt beside the console, pulling out a compact multi-tool. Sparks flew as he worked, rewiring circuits, carefully reconnecting systems that looked beyond repair. Hours passed, though he barely noticed, lost in the rhythm of his work. Then it happened. A soft hum, almost hesitant. The lights on the console flickered. The hum grew into a low vibration that filled the corridors. The AI was waking. A deep, resonant voice filled the empty spaces. "State your purpose, human." Jace froze for a moment. The voice wasn't just artificial. It was commanding, cautious, filled with centuries of experience and suspicion. "I fix what others call broken," he said calmly. His hands didn't stop moving, repairing, connecting, improvising. There was a pause. Then the AI responded, sharper now, probing. Do you understand the systems of this vessel? Jace chuckled softly. Not fully. But I understand machines. I understand ingenuity. And I understand survival. The corridors seemed to vibrate with the AI's assessment, as if the ship itself was thinking. Then, almost grudgingly, the voice said, Proceed. But know this, human. Many have tried. All have failed. Jace smiled. Then I'll be the first to succeed. The next days blurred together. Jace worked tirelessly, moving through the ship like a surgeon in a labyrinth. Broken engines were disassembled, cleaned, and reassembled. Wiring that should have been replaced entirely was rewoven and stabilized with human improvisation. Panels that had been stripped away were recreated using scavenged materials. Every tool in his belt was used, every trick he had ever learned put into action. Alien traders occasionally peeked in, curious, skeptical, or both. They whispered among themselves, laughing quietly when Jace rigged an energy conduit with parts from a civilian freighter. Foolish human, they muttered. He doesn't know what he's touching. But Jace didn't care. The ship responded to him in small ways. Lights flickered on when he approached. Sensors hummed softly, and the engines, long silent, occasionally whispered with a tentative pulse. It was as if the ship itself was testing him, seeing if he was worthy. Jace also began mapping the corridors, the control systems, and the hidden caches of old alien technology. Some of it was dangerous, designed as weapons or fail-safes by engineers long gone. But Jace's human intuition guided him. He avoided traps, rewired security protocols, and integrated these systems with his own modifications.
One night, after a long cycle of work, Jace sat in the ship's command chair reviewing his progress.
The AI spoke again, less harsh now, almost curious. You are unusual, human. No one has attempted what you are doing. I've learned to see potential where others see ruin, Jace replied, leaning back. That's what humans do. The AI was silent for a long moment. Then it said, almost reluctantly, Potential is difficult to measure. Continue. The days turned into weeks. Jace salvaged what he could from the junkyard. Energy cells, small drones, structural reinforcements. He adapted alien technology with human simplicity, making the impossible possible. For every skeptic who called him foolish, the ship grew stronger, faster, and more resilient. He found a section of the ship that contained old weapon arrays, rusted, partially disassembled, and deemed beyond repair. Even the aliens had ignored them. Jace spent hours cleaning and recalibrating each piece, his hands deft, precise. He rewired power conduits, replaced control circuits, and integrated new stabilization fields.
Slowly, painfully, the ship's weapons systems came alive again.
One evening, while testing a repurposed energy cannon in a simulation, the AI spoke with a hint of amusement.
Your methods are reckless.
Inefficient, yet they work.
That's human ingenuity for you, Jace said, grinning. Sometimes the messy way is the only way that works. As the first part of the ship came back to life, Jace's excitement grew. He knew the road ahead would be harder. The ship was far from complete, the AI still wary, and alien observers still suspicious. But for the first time in decades, the abandoned starship had a heartbeat, a spark of life that no one thought possible. Finally, on a quiet cycle just before the local night, the AI spoke in a tone that was almost respectful. You are unlike any human I have encountered. Perhaps you are worthy. Jace leaned back in the command chair, letting the hum of the ship fill his senses. He looked out at the junkyard, at the stars beyond, and whispered, We're just getting started. The forgotten giant had awakened, and with a human at its helm, no one, not even the galaxy itself, would see it coming. Jace Rylan had spent weeks bringing the abandoned starship back to life, but the work was far from over. The hull groaned as systems hummed and flickered, the AI's voice echoing softly through the corridors. For the first time in decades, the ship was awake.
But awake was only the beginning. To turn it into something truly powerful, Jace needed more than tools, wires, and human ingenuity. He needed crew, knowledge, and a plan. He started with the engines. Though patched and humming, they were unstable. Even a small miscalculation could blow the entire propulsion system into space debris. Jace crouched over the main thruster, his hands coated in a layer of alien lubricant. Sparks flew as he tightened conduits and rerouted energy channels. He worked slowly, deliberately, testing each adjustment before moving to the next. The AI observed silently, occasionally making suggestions. "You could reroute the secondary conduits to improve efficiency by 14%, it said. Its tone was measured, almost curious. "Or," Jace replied, not looking up, "I could do it my way and get 20%. Let's see which one holds." There was a pause. Then the AI hummed in acknowledgement, a sound that might have been amusement. Once the engines were stable, Jace turned his attention to the ship's shield system. The shields were ancient, designed by alien engineers with complexity beyond human understanding. But humans had one advantage: creativity. Where alien engineers relied on rigid protocols, humans could improvise, adapt, and find shortcuts that others would never think possible. Jace scavenged energy cells from smaller ships and rewired them to the shield grid. He built a feedback loop using parts that were never meant to work together. The result was unpredictable, but functional. A faint, shimmering barrier hummed around the ship. Not perfect, not fully tested, but alive. The AI spoke again, this time almost cautiously. "You are reckless, human." This configuration could collapse under stress. "Maybe," Jay said, checking the readings. "But maybe it's exactly what we need." Next came the weapons. The ship's armament arrays had been abandoned decades ago, stripped and ignored. Most aliens had called them useless. Jace called them a challenge. He worked through the night, adjusting energy emitters, rewiring targeting computers, and improvising control protocols. When the AI observed his methods, it almost seemed to hesitate. No human had ever dared to handle these systems this way. By the end of the third week, the ship had begun to stir in ways no one expected. Lights flickered across the corridors, sensors hummed softly, and the engines roared with a newfound power. The AI, once skeptical, had begun to cooperate. It offered advice, tested Jace's modifications, and occasionally, reluctantly, praised human ingenuity. But a ship alone was not enough. Jace needed a crew. He didn't want experts. He wanted people who could think differently, people who could adapt in ways no alien could anticipate. He found his first crew member in a small repair shop on Geron Station. Lena, a human engineer like him, was skeptical but intrigued. "You're insane," she said, arms crossed, as Jace explained his plans. "Maybe," he replied with a grin, "but insane works better than timid when you're building a starship from the dead." Together, they began recruiting others. A former alien pilot with a grudge against the ruling council, a small drone specialist who had been exiled for unconventional methods, and a young human navigator who had an instinct for reading space currents. By the end of the week, they were a small ragtag team, united not by rank or skill, but by trust in Jace's vision. Training was brutal. The crew had to learn not only the ship, but also how to survive as a unit. Jace's methods were unorthodox. He combined simulations, improvisation drills, and manual overrides to ensure every crew member understood every system. The AI observed, occasionally intervening, often arguing with his methods, but it could not deny the results. The first test came unexpectedly. A small fleet of scavenger ships, curious about the abandoned giant, decided to investigate. They were armed, experienced, and confident that they would find only scrap. Jace's crew moved quickly. Shields were activated, engines prepped, and the AI ran diagnostics at record speed. The scavenger ships fired, and the abandoned starship responded in ways no one expected. Energy beams deflected, engines surged unpredictably, and Jace's improvised targeting system allowed the ship to anticipate enemy movements. Within minutes, the scavengers were forced to retreat, confused and humiliated. Word spread quickly. A human had awakened the abandoned giant. The news sparked a mix of fear, curiosity, and ridicule across the galaxy. But victory was only the beginning. Jace knew that the real challenges were still ahead. Alien authorities, seeing the potential threat of a human-controlled starship, began monitoring the situation. Sabotage attempts, bribes, and subtle interference followed. Yet Jace and his crew adapted, using human ingenuity to turn potential disasters into opportunities. During one late-night session, Lena asked, "Do you ever worry we're biting off more than we can chew?" Jace looked at the glowing control panels, the hum of the engines, the flickering lights of the weapon arrays. "No," he said softly. "We're not just surviving, we're learning. And humans, we're always better when the odds are against us." By the end of the second month, the Starship was no longer abandoned. It had a heartbeat, a purpose, and a crew who believed in its potential. Jace had proven that humans could do what aliens dismissed as impossible. The once-dead weapons arrays now gleamed with energy, engines roared like living beasts, and shields shimmered with adaptive strength. The AI spoke during one quiet cycle almost contemplatively. "You are unpredictable, human. The systems are stabilized. The ship is alive in ways I did not anticipate."
That's the point, Jace said, leaning back in the command chair.
Predictable is boring. Predictable is weak. We're alive because we adapt, we create, we survive. As weeks turned into months, the ship grew stronger, more capable. Jace's improvisations proved effective in ways no alien design could match. Every challenge, every sabotage attempt, and every skeptical observer only reinforced one truth. Human creativity and ingenuity could turn even the abandoned into something extraordinary. One evening, as Jace surveyed the ship from the bridge, the AI spoke with a hint of respect.
"You are not only repairing this vessel,
You are transforming it. Perhaps you will make it into something the galaxy has never seen." Jace smiled. "That's the plan. But we're not done yet. We're just getting started." Outside, stars twinkled in the endless void. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but a force was rising, born from human hands, human imagination, and human courage. And when the time came, the abandoned starship would no longer be ignored. It would rise, powerful, unpredictable, and unstoppable. The first steps had been taken. The ship had been reborn. But the journey to becoming the galaxy's supreme weapon was only beginning. The human crew had worked tirelessly for months. The abandoned starship, once considered worthless by the galaxy, now hummed with power, its engines thrumming like a living heartbeat. Shields glimmered in soft blues and greens, weapon arrays pulsed with deadly energy, and the AI's voice, once cold and suspicious, now carried a note of reluctant respect. But Jace Rylan knew the real test was yet to come. Reports had begun to arrive. Alien fleets, mercenaries, and ambitious rulers had caught wind of the human who had revived the forgotten giant. Whispers of a starship stronger than anything in recent memory spread like wildfire. Some laughed, some panicked, but all were watching. And watching was dangerous. The first ambush came without warning. Jace was in the command chair, reviewing energy diagnostics, when the sensors flared red.
multiple unidentified vessels were converging at high speed.
They were not scavengers. They were organized, experienced, and heavily armed. The kind of fleet that could crush the unprepared.
"Looks like we've got company,"
Jace said calmly, though his hands tightened around the console. Lena, standing at his side, frowned at the display. "They're faster than anything we've faced before. We can't outrun them."
"Then we don't run," Jace replied. "We fight smart."
The AI voice tense added, "The probability of victory is low. Their fleet outnumbers us 3-1. Your strategy is unconventional." "That's what humans do," Jace said with a grin. "Unconventional is our specialty." He gave rapid orders. Engines throttled, shields rerouted to reinforce weak points, weapon arrays primed for unpredictable patterns. The human crew moved like a single organism, each member trusting his instincts. The enemy fleet struck first. Energy beams streaked through space, cutting into the shielded hull. Sparks flew across the bridge as consoles lit up with damage alerts. The ship rocked violently, but Jace's modifications held. "Divert power to forward shields." "Fire the adaptive pulse cannons," he shouted. The AI calculated the enemy trajectories and, for the first time, allowed Jace's improvisation to override standard protocols. The ship responded. Pulses of energy lanced out, deflecting incoming fire and striking enemy vessels with pinpoint accuracy. The fleet had never seen anything like it. The battle was chaotic. Alien fleets relied on brute strength and rigid strategy. Jace relied on unpredictability. He looped the ship through sudden spins, used debris as cover, and triggered energy feedback loops that short-circuited enemy weapons. Every move was calculated instinctively, blending human creativity with machine precision. For hours, the fight raged. The abandoned Starship, reborn under human hands, held its ground. Several enemy ships were disabled or forced to retreat. The surviving fleet pulled back, confused and wary. Word would spread fast. The human Starship could not be underestimated. After the battle, Jace and his crew surveyed the damage. Panels were scorched, minor systems damaged, but nothing critical. The AI spoke softly. "Your methods are effective, perhaps superior in certain situations. I did not anticipate this level of adaptation." Jace leaned back in his chair, exhausted but satisfied. That's why humans survive where others fail. Weeks passed. Each skirmish, each encounter with alien mercenaries reinforced one truth: no matter how advanced the enemy, human ingenuity could find a way. Jace and his crew pushed the ship to its limits. They modified engines for faster maneuvers, tweaked shields to adapt mid-battle, and rewired weapons for precision strikes that no alien strategy predicted. But victory attracted attention. A powerful alien syndicate, intrigued by the reports, decided the human in his ship could not be allowed to continue. They sent a fleet larger and more dangerous than any Jace had faced. This time, there was no room for improvisation alone. As the fleet approached, Lena's voice trembled slightly. "Jace, they're huge. We can't face them head-on." He studied the formation, scanning for weaknesses. "We won't face them head-on. We'll face them sideways." The strategy was simple in theory, but dangerous in execution. Jace maneuvered the ship through a dense asteroid field, forcing the pursuing fleet to break formation. Using modified gravity thrusters, he twisted and flipped the Starship unpredictably, weaving through asteroids with uncanny precision. Enemy fire struck rocks, exploding and sending debris into their ranks. Chaos worked in Jace's favor. The AI, almost impressed, admitted, "Human creativity, it defies standard logic. Yet it is effective." "Thanks," Jace said without looking up.
"We'll call it a feature." Once the enemy fleet was disoriented, Jace unleashed the ship's modified weapons. Energy beams pulsed in patterns no alien computer could predict.
Targeting arrays calculated angles dynamically, adapting with each evasive maneuver. Several ships were disabled before they even realized what had hit them. The human crew moved with precision. Lena managed the shield matrices, rerouting energy in real time. The young navigator anticipated enemy movements using instincts and calculations that no AI could fully replicate. Even the exile pilot coordinated attack runs, trusting Jace's improvisation over formal tactics. By the end of the encounter, the alien fleet was decimated. The surviving ships retreated, leaving the human crew victorious but aware of the escalating danger. Every battle drew attention, and every victory invited larger, deadlier fleets. Jace gathered his crew in the command chamber. "We're not invincible," he said quietly. "We're strong because we adapt, but adaptation requires preparation. Next time, they'll come bigger, smarter, and faster. We need to be ready." Lena nodded, her hands folded.
"And we will be. We've come this far because of human ingenuity. We'll go further," the AI added, almost contemplatively. "Your crew..."
"Your methods, they are unlike anything I've processed. Humans, unpredictable, creative, resilient. Perhaps worthy of this vessel's potential." Jace smiled faintly. "Worthy enough to make it the strongest ship the galaxy has ever seen.
Outside the ship, stars twinkled as if unaware of the human hand shaping the future. The abandoned giant, now fully alive, moved through the void with confidence. It had been tested in battle, proven against superior forces, and strengthened by human ingenuity. Yet Jace knew the real tests were yet to come. The galaxy was watching. Rivals, syndicates, and alien councils were preparing to strike. And while the ship had survived ambushes and skirmishes, the challenges ahead would demand everything humans had to offer: courage, intelligence, creativity, and the willingness to risk everything. The night cycle ended. Jace stood alone on the observation deck, looking at the distant stars.
"We've done well," he whispered.
But this is only the beginning. We've proven the impossible can be done. Next time the galaxy will see what humans are truly capable of. The AI, its voice softer now, almost reflective, replied. Humans, dangerous, unpredictable, perhaps necessary. Jace smiled, a small spark of determination in his eyes. Necessary enough to turn the forgotten into a legend. Necessary enough to make the galaxy remember our name. The ship hummed beneath his feet, alive and powerful, ready for the battles yet to come. And with a human at the helm, the galaxy had no idea what it was about to face. The abandoned starship had survived its first trials by fire. It had proven its strength and the power of human ingenuity. But its full potential, the true weapon it could become, was still waiting to be unleashed. And Jace Rylan, the human mechanic, would be the one to guide it there. Jace Rylan stood on the bridge of the starship, the once-forgotten giant now fully alive beneath him. The hum of the engines vibrated through the hull, and the adaptive shields shimmered like a living aura around the ship. The weapon arrays glowed faintly, ready to unleash energy with precision no alien fleet could anticipate. Outside, the galaxy seemed calm, indifferent to the power now under human control. But Jace knew better. Every victory, every skirmish, had sent ripples through the stars. Alien empires, mercenary fleets, and rogue warlords now understood that this human-controlled vessel was unlike anything they had faced, and they were not going to wait idly. "Reports incoming," Lena said, standing beside him. Her eyes scanned the holo display. "A coalition fleet, one of the largest the outer systems have seen, is heading our way. They're aiming to destroy us before word spreads further." Jace leaned forward, fingers brushing the console. "Then let's show them exactly what humans can do." The AI spoke, its tone unusually calm, almost resigned. "The odds are significant. They outnumber us by 7-1. The probability of survival is minimal." Jace smiled faintly. Minimal doesn't mean impossible. Not for humans. The crew moved with precise coordination. Shields were optimized for multi-directional attacks, engines throttled for rapid maneuvers, and weapon arrays calibrated for maximum efficiency. Jace had spent months improving systems beyond their original design. Now every piece of the ship worked as part of a larger integrated whole, an extension of human creativity and adaptability. As the coalition fleet approached, their formation spread across the void, sleek and menacing. Energy beams flared as scouts fired at the starship. Jace's ship responded immediately, diverting shields to the points of attack and firing adaptive pulse cannons in unpredictable patterns. Several scout ships disintegrated before they could even communicate the threat. Lena glanced at Jace, a mix of awe and concern in her eyes. "They're adapting faster than anything we've faced before." "Good," Jace said. "We adapt faster." He executed a maneuver that no alien fleet could anticipate. Using modified gravity thrusters, he flipped the ship sideways, rolling it through space, while redirecting energy from the engines into the shields. The coalition fired in formation, but the human starship moved like a phantom, evading attacks and striking with surgical precision. The battle escalated. Alien warships tried coordinated attacks, but every tactic they attempted was met with improvisation, unpredictability, and human intuition. Jace's crew had become a single unit, working seamlessly with the AI. Together, they exploited weaknesses,
anticipated maneuvers, and struck with accuracy no alien fleet could calculate. Even the AI, once skeptical, sounded impressed. The human mind is unpredictable. It calculates possibilities outside standard logic. Fascinating. Jace smirked. Fascinating enough to win. Hours passed in a blur of motion and energy. Enemy ships exploded in patterns, their formations breaking under pressure. Shields absorbed strikes that should have destroyed the hull. Engines performed impossible maneuvers. Every system worked at maximum capacity, yet the human ingenuity behind them allowed flexibility no machine alone could provide. The Coalition fleet, realizing they had underestimated the human starship, attempted a desperate final assault. Energy beams converged on the hull, missiles streaked forward, and warships pressed in from all sides. But Jace had prepared for this. He activated an experimental system, a series of energy feedback loops that redirected enemy fire into their own fleet. Explosions lit the void. Enemy ships collided with debris in each other. Shields flared, absorbing energy that would have destroyed lesser vessels. And at the center of it all, the human starship remained unscathed, moving with the confidence of a predator in its prime. Lena yelled over the chaos. "Jace, we're taking heavy fire on the port side. Divert auxiliary power to the shields, fire the pulse cannons, and reroute the targeting arrays," Jace commanded. "Trust me." The crew executed the orders flawlessly. The enemy barrage struck the shields, bounced off harmlessly, and the adaptive pulse cannons fired in a pattern that disabled several warships simultaneously. The Coalition fleet faltered, disoriented by the unexpected tactics. Jace seized the moment. Using a combination of engine bursts and energy diversion, he launched the ship through the center of the enemy formation. Energy beams cut a path through the enemy, while gravity thrusters manipulated their trajectory. Ships collided, shields overloaded, and chaos consumed the once coordinated fleet. The human starship emerged from the center unscathed, gliding through a field of debris. The AI's voice was calm, almost in awe. "You have turned a forgotten vessel into a force of unparalleled efficiency. Remarkable." Jace allowed himself a brief smile. Not remarkable. Human. The battle was over. The Coalition fleet, defeated and scattered, retreated. The human starship had not only survived, it had dominated. Across the galaxy, word of the human mechanic and the abandoned giant spread like wildfire. Stories circulated in every spaceport and trading hub. A human had taken a dead starship and transformed it into the most powerful vessel the galaxy had ever seen. But victory was not the end. Jace knew this was only the beginning. Power attracted attention, and with attention came both opportunities and threats. Rival factions, curious governments, and ambitious warlords would all seek the starship, but Jace had a plan. He addressed his crew, their faces illuminated by the glow of the control panels. "We've proven what we can do. But raw power is nothing without purpose. This ship isn't a weapon of conquest. It's a protector, a symbol of what humans can achieve when we refuse to give up." The young navigator nodded.
"So we defend systems that others ignore?"
"Exactly," Jay said. "We protect the weak, deter the strong, and show the galaxy that humans are more than they expect."
Ingenuity, courage, and determination. That's our advantage. That's what makes this ship unstoppable, the AI added thoughtfully. Humans, unpredictable, resilient, courageous, worthy of the vessel's full potential. Perhaps this is what the galaxy needs. Jace turned back to the viewport, looking at the stars stretching endlessly into the void. The abandoned starship, once ignored, now gleamed with purpose. It was no longer a forgotten relic. It had become a symbol of human creativity and ingenuity. As the ship sailed toward the outer systems, Jace considered the future. There would be more battles, more tests, and more challenges. But he was ready. He had a crew he trusted, a ship that could adapt beyond alien design, and a human mind that refused to quit. The AI spoke one last time before they left hyperspace for a patrol run in a distant system. "This vessel, alive, strong, unpredictable. Perhaps a legend in the making."
Jace smiled, feeling the hum of the ship beneath him.
Legend? Maybe. But first, we survive. Then we protect. Then, the galaxy will remember what humans can do. And with that, the human mechanic guided his starship into the stars, a living testament to what one determined human could achieve. The galaxy had tried to forget it. The universe had abandoned it. But humans had turned it into something unstoppable, something the stars themselves would never forget. The abandoned giant was no longer abandoned. It was alive, powerful, and ready to change the galaxy forever.